I can't remember the last time we had a Saturday where there were this few games. Because of the Christmas break happening how it is. Clearly, players are being given time off. And yet, a lot of back-to-backs coming tonight. There's going to be a lot of tired teams at the end of this. And then tomorrow there's a bunch of games too. So, the breaks are nice. But like I said, you know, that 3-day Christmas break, you got the All-Star break, you got your buys. It squashes so many games into so small a space that you've got to think there's going to be more injuries coming out of this. And it might be part of the reason why the NHL's like, we don't need to go to the Olympics. The bye weeks might be part of the problem because when you think about it, so a team has a bye week. They have 6 or 7 days off. I think it's a full week. Could be 6 days. Either way, they have that slot in the schedule where they don't play. If you're going to factor in another 2.5 weeks for an Olympic break, that's almost a month that you don't have to play with on the schedule that you got to squash 82 games into. People say, we should go to the Olympics anyways. Man, I don't know. Some of these players, I don't think they're thinking about just how much extra work they're going to have to do and just how likely there is to be injuries because players are going to be tired and playing tired. All right, let's get the show started. So the Boston Bruins can't win tonight. If the Bruins beat Ottawa, the reaction's going to be, well, yeah, it's Ottawa. If the Bruins lose, it's going to be, we told you the Bruins weren't any good. They lost to Ottawa. Tuukka Rask is starting for Ottawa, or for Boston. Anderson's likely to be starting for Ottawa. The Senators, of course, coming off of a 5-4 win against Columbus. The Bruins coming off of a 4-3 shootout loss to Washington. It's going to be a fun game to watch, I think. But again, the end result really is one of either it proves all the naysayers right that don't believe Boston's any good, or it doesn't matter because it's Ottawa. Those games are frustrating. And because you're in the Atlantic Division where you've got Ottawa, Montreal, Florida, who are all perceived as weaker opponents, and don't forget Buffalo, they're going to be playing a lot of games against divisional opponents that people are going to be like, well, yeah, they won that game, but it's kind of frustrating to watch. And for Ottawa at 12-16-8, hey, everything's frustrating to watch right now. And when you watch a game like last night where they beat Columbus 5-4, part of it is, okay, so your team wins, but where was this offense 3 weeks ago, a month ago? Where was this offense then? If the offense for Ottawa comes around and they have a decent record in the second half, they likely still miss the playoffs. If they're going to make the playoffs, this is the team they got to make up space on. And it's not easy because these guys have 32 points coming into tonight, and these guys have 46. It's a 14-point deficit. If Boston chokes away a 14-point deficit over Ottawa, and Ottawa gets that playoff spot, Cassidy's fired, and everything gets torn apart. It would have to be a complete and total meltdown. So let's avoid that and win the game tonight, guys. Doesn't matter. I'll wear my fandom on my sleeve for this one because, again, it's a game that no matter what happens, Boston loses. In the eyes of those who do not believe in the Bruins. And there are more than a few of them. Let's move on to Montreal and Florida. Speaking of can't win, Montreal. Tonight they're in the same position. Florida's perceived as being a bottom feeder team, a nothing team. So if Montreal gets the win tonight, they drop Florida to 1 game below 500 if they win it in regulation, and they get within 1 game of 500. Carey Price is highly likely to be the starter against Reimer. Reimer's been playing really well during this winning streak for Florida, also known as the winning streak that nobody's paying attention to. Florida is not in a position right now to say they're a threat to the playoffs. They're 9 points back of Boston. But a win over Montreal tonight, especially in regulation, would assert themselves into the position of, hey, we're the official 4th best team out of 8 in a division that has Montreal, Florida, Detroit, and Buffalo. It's not high praise, but it's a start. And for fans in Florida, just seeing themselves ahead of that many teams might help to encourage some people to come out and watch a game or two. And a 5-game winning streak might encourage people to come out and watch a game or two. Florida's playing really well. I will never stop calling Huberdeau Hooby Dooby Doo now. I don't know how I didn't hear that. Maybe there's some kind of a PTSD thing from when I first heard it that maybe I didn't pay attention, and maybe I just broke the other night and realized he actually called him that. But if Florida and Hooby Dooby Doo can have a big game, then Montreal's in trouble. And Montreal's in trouble. Montreal, much like Edmonton, they get to 500 and then they blow it. And all I think of when I say that is the Toronto Blue Jays. The Toronto Blue Jays in baseball would get to 500, they'd fight their way to 500, and then they'd blow it again. They get to 500, and the Toronto media would be all like, hey, we're going to turn it around. Here it comes. Joey Bats is going to turn it on. And then done again. And it feels that way with both Montreal and Edmonton right now. That they get up there, it's happening, and then no. We'll see if it happens for Montreal tonight. Can they start turning it around again? Florida is not a gimme game anymore. This is not an easy game to win. In Florida, they're tough at home. I can't qualify this as a trap game because Florida's got a half-decent record right now. 16-16-5. Half-decent record. Of course, it's 16-21 if you count overtime losses as losses. But even then, Montreal's 16-22 if you do that. So, either way, Florida does have the better record. Montreal's supposed to be the better team. Let's see who wins that one tonight. And in the back half of a back-to-back, home and home, as it were, Minnesota and Nashville. So Minnesota wins theirs at home. If they can go in and they can lay a beating on Nashville, or just a win, in regulation over Nashville, they pull themselves to 45 points. These guys have 49. They pull themselves within 4 points. They will have pulled off an incredible swing and got themselves right back into the conversation. And I would not be surprised to see it happen. Minnesota, neither goaltender's been confirmed. I would be surprised if it wasn't Saros for Nashville. Dubnyk can do the back-to-backs because he's coming off of an injury, he hasn't played in a while. I think he'd probably prefer that. Stalock might appreciate the rest as well. This will be an interesting game to watch. The Minnesota Wild and the Nashville Predators are really going to hate each other by the end of this one. They're going to be getting sick of each other, which is going to be interesting because they could meet each other in the playoffs. This could be your 2-3 matchup right here. Absolutely, I could see Winnipeg or St. Louis somehow coming out first in that division and this being 2-3. Because I could see either St. Louis or Winnipeg falling into a wild card spot as well. And I kind of want this to be the 2-3 matchup. I think that'd be fun to watch. Just for the logos alone. You've got this bear cougar head thing against this saber-toothed tiger thing, and, just for logos alone. Just think of all the graphics that Fox Sports could come up with, of the heads clashing or eating each other or whatever they want to do. Could be fun. And it would be a fun series. Really fun series. But honestly, I would expect Nashville to come out and win this one tonight. I would expect a big game from Arvidsson. That blue line of theirs. There was one play last night that I thought was kind of funny where I'm trying to think of who passed the puck. He was obviously trying to pass it to Yossi, and Ekholm went in and intercepted the puck. And I thought, Matthias, if you look behind you and saw Yossi was getting ready for a big shot, you might have wanted to leave that one for Yossi. I like Ekholm too, but Yossi was getting ready for a big shot. And you have to wonder if that puck had got to Yossi and Yossi had taken that thundering shot he wanted to, maybe this game would have had a different result last night. We'll see what happens tonight. Note to Ekholm, though, let Yossi have the puck. Roman Yossi's the best defenseman nobody talks about. I swear, nobody talks about Yossi. Okay. New Jersey. The Jersey Devils, coming off of an overtime loss, are in Washington against the extremely tough Washington Capitals. The resilient, we can beat you every way Capitals. Whether it's a low-scoring game, a high-scoring game, whether it's a game with few chances, like a trap-style game, or it's a wide-open run-and-gun game. I don't bet against Washington with anything. Now, tonight's game is about Washington wanting to be better than Jersey and prove themselves to be best, at least in the Metro for right now, and then start tracking down Tampa in that #1 spot in the East. Jersey's been very good, and Jersey fans point out, and rightfully so, that they've had an excellent record. 22-9-6 is fantastic, and it does look better than Washington's. Washington, though, Had a rough October. Has been excellent since November 1st. And this game tonight is really going to tell the tale. Now, Schneider isn't confirmed. It could be Kincaid. Coming off of an overtime loss to Buffalo, I wouldn't be surprised if they came back with Keith Kincaid against Holtby, but that is an advantage to Washington if Holtby's in net. Kincaid's numbers have been iffy over the last month. He started off really strong, and it's kind of tailed off a bit for him. Now, backups, the trick with backups is you're dealing with a smaller sample size, so if they have one bad game, it does tend to cloud everything. If they have two bad games, well, then their stats are just probably going to be crap for months. But either way, I still think Holtby is Vezina level, and while he's not in that conversation right now, don't be surprised when March rolls around and all of a sudden people are talking about Braden Holtby winning another Vezina trophy. It's just the way it works. Because once you've already won a Vezina trophy, it's easier to win the next one. This is going to be the game of the night. I'm going out on a limb and saying this is going to be the game of the night. Now, let us move on to the next game of the night, which is Carolina and St. Louis. And this is my upset of the night. You know what? Carolina beat Pittsburgh. Carolina has to feel great about themselves right now. Now they go to St. Louis. St. Louis is starting Hutton. They're 23-15-2. Hutton has great numbers. Carolina starting Darling. Darling has crap numbers. 18-12-7. But momentum. Carolina has a lot of momentum going into this game and a lot of confidence. Against Pittsburgh last night, while I talked about how Pittsburgh's offense wasn't there and it was surprising to see so many great offensive weapons on the ice at the same time and they couldn't get to the net, that says a lot about where their defense is right now. St. Louis, without Jaden Schwartz, has had a notable drop in terms of their offensive potential and their output. I would not be surprised to see Carolina go in and beat St. Louis. The Hurricanes know they have to win a lot of games to get into a playoff spot in the Metro, and they're perfectly capable of doing it. It's kind of nice to see because I know early on in the season, because I predicted that Carolina would make the playoffs, and they looked just like Carolina from every other year, and there was a lot of brushback against that. I never changed playoff predictions, and I don't. And people ask me, they say, well, why don't you do another playoff prediction video? No. Because then I'm going to be changing my predictions every month and I'm going to second guess myself. I am better off just doing predictions in August and September, and then we'll see where they end up falling at the end of the year. I can't go in and just change them because then they don't really mean anything. And then I'm not sticking to my guns. So I'm glad to see Carolina do well. I'm a little nervous because it's Darling, but Hutton is due for a bad game. And I say that because Hutton's been fantastic every game. Almost every single time that Hutton's played, he's been awesome. And maybe Carolina can be the one to exploit something in his game and take advantage. Like, I love Carter Hutton. He's a great goaltender, don't get me wrong. But eventually he has to have an average to below average game, and maybe Carolina can put that on him. Sebastian Aho is playing the best hockey of his very young career. And the one that impressed me last night, and he doesn't get on the score sheet every night, and he's definitely not the sexy pick if you're a Carolina fan, and especially if you're not a Carolina fan, you may not know. Elias Lindholm played a great game last night. Elias Lindholm reminds me a lot in his game of a Patrice Bergeron in that he's very good with the puck. He's good defensively. He doesn't necessarily put up a lot of points, and he doesn't necessarily get a lot of attention that way. But for fans watching the game, at the end of the game, you're like, that Lindholm played a great game. And you look and you go, we didn't get any points. It doesn't matter. Watch for him tonight against St. Louis. For St. Louis, I'm waiting for Sobotka to break through here because they need somebody to break through, so why not Sobotka? And last but not least, the Vancouver Canucks are at home against the Kings. The Kings are 22-11-5. Vancouver 16-17-5. Vancouver's coming off of a big win over Chicago. St. Louis or LA's coming off of a loss to Vegas. I don't know that they're embarrassed by that loss. I doubt it. Vegas is a really solid team, but they should be angry coming into tonight. Jonathan Quick hasn't been confirmed. It'll probably be Quick. Not that it would matter. Darcy Kemper has been fantastic as well for LA. Markstrom starting for the Canucks tonight because, of course, Markstrom's their starter. 'He'll get probably 55 starts at this rate, and I don't know that he's proving himself to be an NHL level starter, or if he's proving that the Canucks kind of knew this season wasn't going to go their way and they're rolling with Markstrom and Nilsson until Demko's ready. That's probably what it is. I expect the Kings to win this game. I expect it because whenever Vancouver plays teams from California, I kind of expect a win for the team that's not Vancouver. Whether it's LA, it's Anaheim, or it's San Jose, I kind of expect the Canucks to lose. Unless it's San Jose in Vancouver, then I feel all right with the idea that maybe Vancouver will win it. But against LA, I see this as being a win for LA. I would watch for a big game from Kopitar because he has had big games against Vancouver before, and I can see him having another one. Let me know what you guys think, who you guys are picking for winners tonight. Again, it's only 6 games tonight, so it's a relatively light night, especially considering it's Saturday. Tomorrow, we have more games than that. I think there's 11 for Sunday, but for today, we've got 6. We're kind of a little snowed in here. Well, not snowed in. We're iced in today, so to speak. We had branches break off the tree out front, but the tree didn't fall over. So we're good for right now. I don't think it's going to fall over. If it was going to, it would have already. Although if the ground's frozen around the tree and then it thaws, and if it's too far leaning, I will find out. Maybe I'll throw some kids at it or cats at it, or see if I can just kind of shove it over. Or, I had the idea last night of just, getting a chainsaw and just, knocking her over. But for whatever reason, Yvonne didn't think that was a good idea. Just because I've never used a chainsaw before isn't a reason not to use a chainsaw. Anyways, thank you guys very much for watching. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And hey, let me know who you think is going to win the games tonight. I'm not lying when I say I'm pulling for these guys a little bit. But, again, if they win, you can just sort of brush it off and go, well, it's just Ottawa. Yeah. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.